something that would have to be isolated, or as he was saying, a hotfix or patch, right? Yeah, patch. Yeah, it would be something that was a major problem that had to be fixed like right away, like that you were like sure that something was happening wrong and you could see the problem and it needed to be fixed in production right away. I'd say, well, I would still be scared to do that on master, but yeah, I mean, especially anything that's like a little thing that's isolated that isn't going to affect anything else. If it's like a wording change inside of a string, that's not anything that's going to affect logic. I would say that's not a big deal. You want to add anything to that? Carrie, you looked up. Okay.
I would just say, like, the one thing to know is that this is just a strategy. This is a strategy we use. It's not like GitHub is going to use, like, every project owner on GitHub, they're going to have a different way. Like, basically, the branching, the most, like, important role that it plays is, like, versioning and features. So, those are the two most important, like, biggest use cases for them. So, like, just because we do it one way, and this is within CAPS as well. You might go to Matt's team and they're doing branching a different way. You come to the titles team and we're going to do branching a different way. It's really just whatever, like, makes your project flow the easiest and most efficient. So that it's not like there's any like special rules out there that say, okay, master's only for this, only do it this way. And that's kind of the beauty of it, is that it fits whatever you need.
Did you want to add anything, Matt?
No, that's cool.
And also, Derek, is there any idea if we're going to have any kind of standards being pushed at all from CAPS? Or not to put you on the spot or anything, but...
Well, as we've grown, it's really been kind of a topic of pretty hot contention, because there's been, not to speak out of turn, but kind of the old guard has always thought that standards were kind of a dirty word, and as a lot of us who've had outside experience have seen standards be a wonderful, beautiful thing. It's a warm blanket that keeps you from doing the wrong thing, and
gives you confidence.
And gives you confidence, because you know that, hey, I'm playing within the structure. I know what I need to do. I think eventually we're going to see some more structure, but I think it's really going to start at the team level. Like, teams are going to establish their own standards and things like that.
And I could see that happening already. So
and it will. We will battle. That's also one of the reasons it hasn't been really kind of agency wide. Is the sole fact that teams are filled with people that have different opinions, and cross team the opinions can vary very widely. So we kind of just said each of the teams kind of come up with your own standards and adhere to them and follow them as closely as possible, even if they're not written down. Share them by word of mouth, and use the Native American sit around the bonfire, tell each other your standards type of thing. Pass it down from generation to generation.
Okay. Well, I mean, and that's one thing that, going out into the world away from CAPS that you should be aware of. I know in my last job, I was handed packets of information with everything of, like, how you were to name a table, a variable. It was very structured. And also got called into a meeting about a year after that with, did you guys receive the packet when you started? It was like, yes, we did. And he was like, I just wanted to make sure everybody was getting them. It's like, all right, dude. Like, some places are very, very structured about that type thing. And being kind of on that side of things, like, I kind of appreciate it. Like, it's good to know, like, when you're, looking at somebody else's code, it makes it so much easier if you kind of know how they're going to name things and what sort of standards is. Not saying that one is necessarily better than the other, but if we could all be on the same page, that would be good, So, anyway, I was just kind of curious about that, but also wanted to make sure you guys were aware of that. Is just it's kind of off topic, I guess, but still relevant. Totally, related. So, all right. So we've made our change here to our project, and if I go over here to source tree, and look at my master copy, and I always do this a little bit oddly, apparently than everybody else. Did you ever figure out what that was that I had
I think if you go back to the other tab, there's like a checkbox
that I don't have that everybody else does?
like show what branches.
Mm.
I think maybe under it as well.
Okay, gotcha. Alright, so, if you look here, down on your unstaged files, you can see that I made a change to the file called display the months, program.cs. And if you look over here, you can actually see the changes that I made. The stuff in green is what I added, and then the stuff in red is, gone and then replaced with the stuff in green effectively. So, I changed this line to look like this line, basically. So you can actually, do I need to zoom in on that as well? I don't know if you can see it or if there's any easy way to.
Zoom in a little bit. We should be alright.
You can see it okay?
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I know that it's small. But anyway, it shows the changes that I've made. And so that way you can double check, and you want to check your stuff before you commit it and say, okay, yeah, this is actually, make sure that you didn't make some changes the night before you left and you were real tired and it was not going to work, and then you just forgot about it and decided that was good code anyway. Not that anybody's ever done that before, but
It's fine.
yeah, it's surely anything you wrote is perfect. So, if I select this and put up here, and then we have our commit message. So I'm going to say added a senseless. Nope, I don't know how to spell. Wow. I still don't think that's right. Also, spelling is just about.
It's S-I-N-C-E.
Okay.
Always
I
confused.
think it's S-C-E-N-T.
Done. No, I spell that. All right. At the end of my display. Yeah, it's just unneeded. It's unnecessary, whatever. But typically, you would, obviously say what you did and make it relevant. Maybe a little more specific than this. But okay. So now I commit this change, and why did it not work?
You haven't set your user permission.
What?
Copy paste those. The actual error message will help you.
If you go to tools and then options,
How can you do that?
and then go to the Git tab, or right there, you need to set something right there.
Jeez, why didn't you tell me this the other day when we were installing all this stuff?
And just as a side note, this stuff, when you originally set up your GitHub account, if you do it through the tutorial, which I'm sure she can provide, it's gonna force you to set this stuff up. So she actually went around it by not setting it up in a conventional manner. But Git will actually force you to do this stuff. So that's one of the side effects of using a client that's not directly
Young good.
related to GitHub.
Okay,
That's like it.
that's all I need.
Yep.
Wow. Okay, we try again. Okay.
I have a question.
Yes.
What was it like? How does it differ? Like unstaged files and staged files, as in these are the files that you want to put up?
Yeah, because what you can actually do, thank you for asking that, is like, you can make changes and say, well, yeah, I made changes to this file, but it's not really ready to go
okay.
yet. So you just don't stage it. Will it still let you push? Okay. I know that I can do it. I do that in
In fact, you
Visual
can
Studio.
stage parts of files if you really want to.
Yeah, it's really cool.
It's very powerful. Pretty much anything you want to do, you can. It's just knowing how to do it.
It's absolutely the truth. That would
So
be
when you
simple
commented
to
right now,
do.
did it go in the master file or?
What
on
it
the
actually
local?
did when I pressed commit was it saved it to my local repository. And now if I want that pushed out to where you
So-
guys could see it, then
And
that's
do the push.
That's when I do push, yeah. And so it's like 2 steps there. And it'll actually let you do them both at the same time. I just kind of do them separate because sometimes I regret what I've done and when I do it. And when you commit something, also, it can be retrieved, but it can be real sticky to do that. So try to be sure what you're doing before you commit it. Like I said, when I made all those changes, and then I was like, oh, I'm on the master branch. It's pretty easy at that point to just, oh, that was an accident, and stash your changes, and then go. Once you commit it, it's a little bit hairier. Not that it can't be undone, but it's just a little bit more difficult at that point to undo it from the branch that you're on. But it can be done. It still can be done. So yeah, that's when I call out the big guns, and I'm like, hey guys, this is what I did. Go fix it. And then they argue back and forth about what actually needs to happen, and then one of them wins. So yes.
So you know, you're saying like if you make a bunch of changes and you realize you're in the master branch, what's the best way of like switching branches and without retyping all that code?
Okay, that you literally do what they call stashing. So
Okay.
you stash your changes, and again, I don't know the commands to do all.
Yeah, there's a little button at the top there.
Oh, is it?
To a certain extent, it depends on
There you go.
what it is you're trying to do. If you
That's true.
are on the master or some other branch and really just wanted to make a change in a new branch, then you can still branch right then before you commit. If the branch you're on is different from the one you wanted to make changes to, then you have to go that route of backing them out and going over to the other one. But if she's right here and she makes new changes and she decides instead she wanted to make a branch of those changes and not commit to master, it's not too late to just branch and commit. But if dev for whatever, like if the development branch was significantly different from that one, except for that one file and that was the confusion, then you'd have more trouble.
And to stash means to put all your code in a little box and put it away for later, essentially, and then open the box and put it back in. That's why it's a box,
Yeah.
I think.
You're telling Git, just trust me on this. Just
Yeah.
ignore these files and let's act like nothing
Just
happened.
go back, yeah.
And later, when I need them, we'll act like it happened. So
Yeah.
you can change, because like the active branch is really the most important part of Git. Like wherever you are currently is where Git is gonna like it's gonna enforce rules. It's gonna say you can't change. You can't switch branches. You have changes. So that would be like the biggest part of it, that is enforcing the rules.
So if you're making changes to master, you have the master branch checked out and you're making changes and you say, oops, I should have made these in the dev branch. Do you then stash those changes, switch branches, and then unstash them?
Exactly.
Okay.
Right,
Yeah.
yeah, so you would apply what was in the stash to what the current state is, and you may end up with conflicts at that point, because if it's very different from what you started with, it's not gonna know how to resolve that without asking you. But I mean, you'll at least get the work you've done, have the opportunity to reconcile the differences.
But yeah, and like what he was saying earlier, there's a lot of different ways that you can do it. For instance, if you need to start, or if you need to move into a new branch, you're on master, you have these changes that you've yet to commit, you just push those to a new branch. There won't be any problems. In all of those cases though, it's never gonna be unsafe to stash. If you're unsure, you can always stash. It's not gonna break anything. If you say, I just don't know the outcome, because like the majority of the problems that you will have in Git is not that something can't be done, it's the right way to do it. Because Git is like, it's got a lot of rules, and the reason it has a lot of rules is because it's very efficient. So just like getting over.
But it remembers everything.
Yeah, overcoming that, anything that you mess up in Git, I guarantee there's a way to do it, like within a 30-day limit, because I think that's garbage collection. There's always a way to undo it. It's just the process of knowing how to do it. That's the hard part.
Once you get it in there. Now, if you discard changes before you ever get it in Git, then I think that's what some of us have done before, is not ever committed them and or stashed them, and we just were like, no, yeah, let's just not do that. And then I was like, oh yeah, well, maybe I should have. So, again, you will get nobody looking down their nose at you about Git from me, because if it could be screwed up, I've probably done it.
We've all done it.
Oh, yeah.
It's hard. It's complicated.
It is, but
Don't be intimidated. Just try things, break things. You know, don't do it like try stuff with
Don't do it on
important
production
things.
code.
You know, like with test projects, but get to a point that you can't, and then try to get out of it. That's how you learn. That's how you learn to get out of the hard situations. So
Yeah.
I definitely suggest doing it in unimportant projects, but hey, the pressure always helps. You know?
yeah, sure, it does.
Yeah, learning after goofing up master, that's a hard way to learn.
True.
I don't know that you kind of want to derail what you're doing, but I mean, you could show that branching from a clean master and stashing. Just
Can I push first?
Sure.
Okay.
But you don't have to do it at all. It's just.
No, I did. I was actually thinking I would do that, but I wanted to push this first. So if you see when I push this, it's saying, well, we're going from master to the remote branch, and the remote branch is what we're going to treat as like our main version that everyone else is accessing, rather than the one that's locally on my machine.
In a
So-
centralized version on the server.
Yeah, exactly. So, alright, so I'll say okay. And, of course, why did that do that? Should it just go away? Now I gotta remember my Git credentials. Ugh. That's me in Iceland. When Gary tells you that you would get to learn more about me than you really wanted to know. That was one of the things that she was talking about. So I will share information randomly.
Yeah.
I went through those like 4 times last week trying to find the right password, and I told myself I was gonna remember it, but you see that I didn't. But I had it saved here, and I counted the number
Characters.
of characters, and that's how come I just now remembered what it was. All right. So we should be able to see this now. Here. You
Yep.
see I've got my changes. And so now it's up there on the remote branch. So anybody that now clones this repository is going to have this complete nonsense done. And that's not really good. Let's go here and undo this.
Yes, we
And
have that.
we will save this, and then let me rebuild as well.
No, yeah. It wasn't written.
Oh, no.
Just
Still
for
on
fun.
master.
What?
I said, oh, no, we're still on master.
Well, we wanted to be on master, right?
What this is-
Oh yeah, sorry.
He's doing a bit.
Oh no, we're still on master, and we wanted to leave that nonsense up there on master. We just didn't want it to be on development. Okay. So what we'll do here is we can just branch from here. I know how to do this in Visual Studio. I'm gonna do this here. Okay, so we'll do a new branch called develop.
Oh, no, you won't.
I'm a superb typist. It's just this keyboard and every other keyboard.
Every other keyboard. Yeah.
Every other keyboard, except for the one at my house. That's the only one that is
Because
good.
nobody sees you
What
then?
When it said, there was a checkbox and it said check out new branch, what does that mean?
What?
Like when you created the new branch?
Oh, it means it's gonna switch and put you on that branch immediately. So if you notice, I
Says development.
am no longer on the master branch. I'm on the development branch. Okay, and so when I hit this, and go to make my changes.
I think that's one of my only beefs with source tree is the fact that the only way you can tell which branch you're actually checked out or that is active is that it's bolded,
Yeah.
which there probably should be a clear indication.
It's
but-
real subtle.
When you're committing at the bottom right, there's also, right next to the.
Oh, that's
last
true,
two,
yeah.
It'll also tell
Also
you,
subtle.
yeah, not until you get to there.
Right.
Two subtle
And also
locations.
though,
One non-subtle one.
It'll show you here in Visual Studio. If you see, it's changed me here
Oh,
as
that's
well.
quick.
So it knows which branch that you are.
But like, just as a side note, like the reason that it knows, because she switched in source tree. She goes over to Visual Studio and it just magically knows. And that goes back to the client versus like Git. Those are just clients that overlay Git. Git is actually doing the work. That's why Visual Studio is like, oh, in Git, she switched to development. Let's mirror that.
Because both clients look at the same files.
Exactly.
Right.
So Git's the
Monitoring
one
for
that's doing the
changes.
work. Visual Studio is just making it look good. Source tree.
Yeah, exactly. Thank you for pointing that out. All right. I just thought it was magic. I didn't know that there was a reason for it.
Well, there's a troll in your computer that's actually doing it.
It's actually.
I love that helpful tool guide.
It's actually a single text file with a name of a branch in it.
Is it really?
Yeah, it's in backup.
Okay, so I'm gonna hit commit. Alright. And so that has been committed
To the appropriate branch.
to the development branch. Where I fixed that awful error.
But not push.
But it is not push. Why didn't it push? Cause it's
You didn't check the box. When you commit, there's a box that says push when
Push
you commit,
automatically.
push.
But
Well-
this always messes with me in Visual Studio too, because when I first push when I create this new branch, it's not published
Talk about
yet.
the print. Yeah.
So do I have to do something special to publish it?
So if you, when you go to push, like click push, you have to tell it you want to track that one.
Okay.
Otherwise it stays local.
Branches to push, and I don't want to push master right now. I just want to push development. Okay. So I'll say okay. Is that gonna show me both? Yeah.
Yep.
Alright, so now I have my development branch and my master branch, and they're out on remote now, rather than just local. Okay? So, does that make sense?
And you can actually see on the tags in the list of commits, so origin/development versus development. Origin is just kind of a conventional name for the primary remote.
Central repository.
But yeah, so those don't have to be together. She could now make a lot of more commits on local development, and origin development would stay down below until that was back in sync.
Alright.
Is anybody confused by that? Do you feel like you understand, grasp the concept? Because if you don't, stop now, because it only is going to compile.
And I'll be honest, I felt like I understood it until I would try to do stuff, and then I'd be like, that's not right, and then it just, until I got going, I mean.
I have a quick question.
Sure.
Like now we have both the branches on the server, so it's master and development. But in the end, you want everything to be merged to the master branch, right? That's how it works.
Theoretically, but not necessarily, because, I mean, eventually you will probably want all of the stuff that you decide is acceptable to end up on master, but like we keep two running branches of like master and development for both of the main projects that I work on, the scrap and bonds projects. We keep development out there, and we keep
Yeah, because you
master.
make changes on development. But
Yeah.
in the end, when you're publishing your live website, it's the master branch that goes, right?
Yeah, everything ends up going there. But a lot of times, like we publish development to our development servers, and if that looks okay, then we let it sit out there, let everybody test. If that's okay, then it goes live on production, and once it's live on production and everything's okay, after that is when I usually will push those changes to master. I don't push them until after
Okay, so you
everything's
first
okay.
test your development, and then when you think it's working fine on the live side, then that's when you add to your master.
Well, and I push to production first too, as well, because what I want to have is that
When you
I
say push,
I'm
do
sorry.
you mean publish to
I
the-
publish to the production servers, and let it goes live in the world, and let the users use it, because if for some reason whatever we do causes chaos, I can easily go back to that other version.
And you have a
Yeah.
pre-changed
Maintain a backup.
master.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then once it's out there, everything's working and it seems fine, then we'll take those development changes and push them to master, and master will have them all, but we leave development out there for a while. Or if we feel like it's pretty good and also we've got some more changes we want to make, and I want to, don't want to just keep branching stuff, but sometimes we do that as well. We'll have like 3 or 4 branches. Like if I've fixed some stuff and I think it's good, but then they're like, hey, but we also want this other thing and I think it's going to be complicated, create a whole nother branch for some kind of hot fix or something like that, or a new feature that they want, something, so you can create new branches based on wherever you're at, and then you can merge all the changes, and the more branches you have, the more you run the risk of like pulling back into master and causing conflicts. But if you're kind of careful about what you're changing, it's not that hard. So yeah.
One more thing, like the projects that I work on, they use Mercurial. So that has a master branch like this one. So that is also a development branch, or it's like the main branch that we work on? I mean, because like I can see two branches here, like the development and the master, but there, I mean, there you do not have like two branches separately. I mean, you have branches from the working directory, but I mean, I'm
Are
not
they for
sure
local,
about
or-
development and masters.
Correct me if I'm
that-
wrong, but Mercurial does support branching in a very similar manner. I mean, it's almost exact. Like if you loaded up a Mercurial project, you would see the exact interface,
Yeah.
but with different names for like a couple of things,
Yeah,
like
yeah,
Stash or something.
yeah, exactly.
So
I'm
you
not,
could.
I'm not sure if it has Stash. I'm not aware
Yeah,
of
it's
it.
like a different name for it, but you could do the exact same things if you wanted to. It's probably on that specific project. They don't have a development branch. You're probably only operating on master the whole time, which is.
I think this really gets back to what we were talking earlier about it just being what works for you. There's not,
Yeah, it's
there's not
true.
a way that it forces you to do it, and in fact, master, there's nothing special about it either. It's
Yeah.
just by convention,
By
you call it that.
Yeah.
I mean, you can delete master right now.
Make a production
Yeah.
branch
But
instead.
make,
Yeah.
make something else and just decide to treat it the same way. The
Okay.
point
Yeah.
is just that
We keep-
you can branch and separate changes
Mm,
Yeah.
Got it,
and
got it.
reintegrate it later.
Keep one sacred, keep another one less sacred, keep another one less sacred.
Mhm.
Essentially,
Sure.
yeah, you just like which ones can never be broke, which ones can sometimes be broke, and which ones can break all the time. Like that's how you should just think about it, I guess, that way. But like for instance, on our master, we literally only push releases to master. Period. Like we never push anything. We hotfix branch and do something, but we never push anything to master that's not a point release, and that's just us. So, but that's just one group, right?
Yeah, I mean-
So anybody could do.
Probably they would like
Anything.
it if that's all I did.
Right, but like we do all
I
of
can't
our,
be bothered with that development.
our
right?
dev
So
off of
like,
it.
the simplest case, you only have master, you make out something you're gonna mess with, and
Yeah.
then go right back in. And,
Exactly.
I mean, that's the simplest sort of branching model, but it can get, as complex as you
Okay,
can.
I
Yeah.
got you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay. All right.
Good question.
Silly question,
No,
it's
that's
fine.
a good question.
Okay. So, do we have any other like branching type questions, or, I mean, why branch is kind of out there. We've discussed that at length, I think, about the reasons that why we separate things out and so forth. So, yeah.
Got a
Let me
question?
do this. Let me show you how to do this as well.
We got a question.
Oh, sorry. My bad. Steve.
Could you explain what fetch means? The difference between like fetch and pull?
Yes, and I was about to show you that. That's one of the things that we haven't covered yet. I've just been working on this by myself, so nobody else has done anything. So, but one of the things that can happen, I can change this file here. Like if I go, I am in the master branch, and let me. Won't this let me edit this? All right.
Code the internet while you're on the internet.
Let me just, I'll change this so that it doesn't just reflect exactly what's on my development branch. I'll just throw the year out there, and I'm sure I could do something a little more fancy. But I'll go ahead and do that and commit the changes. Now here, I'm committing these changes just on that remote branch that's live, that's out there that everybody else will see. Typically, you won't see this being done. Like you'll be working on your local branch and then pushing it. But since nobody else is working on this, I need to make a change somewhere besides my local copy. All right, so I've made that change and it's out there. So what I can do is go over here to source sheet, and if you hit fetch, should pull up possible changes that have been made. So if you look, it's down here in master, and now it'll show you that master is one behind. It means that first of all, master is behind development because I changed the line where I pulled that error out. But also, I changed the value out on origin. Okay, so when I hit fetch, it shows me that it's there. Why can't I pull it?
You're not on.
Oh, because I'm not in master. Yeah, I was gonna say.
There we go.
Yeah. Okay.
So when you fetched, what did it actually do?
It went back in, showed me everything that was updated from the origin. Yeah.
Or from any,
Or-
yeah.
yeah.
Well, origin is,
Yeah, because it just went and said, okay, there were changes, but,
And in fact, it pulled all those changes into your local repository.
uh-huh,
It just has not affected your working copy at all. So, and I say not only that, the only reason I bring that up is that you could fetch and then go offline and still be able to integrate those changes in without an internet connection if you wanted to.
why not the poll?
Would you,
So how is it different from poll?
Like here?
A poll is a fetch and a merge kind of combined. So it fetches the information and then it also merges it into what you've currently got. So it's just, a fetch lets you separate the merge step until you're ready.
Okay.
You can kind of like preview what else is out there,
yeah,
yeah?
like all fetching does is it just goes and it says, it asks origin, it's like, hey, is there anything else that I don't know about, that, like, any changes on origin?
Okay.
And so you don't actually, you're not pulling it into your local
Just
repository, you're just asking about it.
Asking about it.
And then pulling would be the actual act of saying, okay, I've reviewed these changes, I see that they're
And now
good,
you merge.
I would like them in my local repository.
Okay.
Right, okay. So, but I didn't press pull, I mean, I didn't hit pull, I just hit fetch. Why did I not get an opportunity to look at that? That's what I don't understand.
Fetch is only, so basically Git keeps two copies kind of the repository. It keeps when you have a remote connected. It keeps what it's known about the remote and it keeps your local repository. When you fetch, you updated what it knows about the local remote, but you haven't touched your repository yet.
I understand that, I'm asking why I didn't, like, it's not showing me that I can pull. I just hit fetch.
You
You
can't pull,
can.
it shows you
You
one
can.
behind it. You're just not, for whatever reason, source tree is just not showing a little one on the.
Yeah, that's what I wanted.
Yeah.
That's,
It's
okay,
showing
it's
you
just,
something.
it's not showing me. Normally it
Yeah,
does
it's
that
just-
though.
it's just
Yeah,
more-
normally it'll have like a
It's
little
most likely
icon.
because you were the one who made the other change and it's probably like. there's
Oh,
probably
it doesn't
a-
know that,
yeah.
okay,
But,
gotcha.
like,
But I
when-
kinda-
when
Yeah,
we're
because I
asking
can
about-
see it on my screen. It
You
says,
can see it's
yeah,
pull
pull
okay.
one with the one on it.
Excellent, okay, good. This is what I was like, why is it not asking me to pull? That's what I had to figure out, okay.
Yeah, I can see that.
Fair enough, because it was me that made the change
Most
on
likely.
origin.
I don't know, it sounds like you go in both, but.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, so yeah, the fetch will just show you the stuff, and then pull will actually pull it down. Because, and that's one of the things that we were doing. Sometimes, like Carrie and I would be working on the same file, and we were gonna have some problems. She would have to fetch my changes, look at them, make sure I wasn't overriding anything she had done. And that's also a good thing to kind of get in the habit of, is like maybe trying to isolate what you're working on so that you're not working in the same exact files that somebody else is. But sometimes it's unavoidable, you know, so just be aware of it. And okay, so I'm pulling my changes, and so now those changes get applied to my local repository. And I should be able to go back here, and it's gonna say, file has been modified outside of source editor, you wanna reload it, and as Carrie Kendall always says to me, always say yes to all, and instead of letting some of those files sit out there, because I think I screwed some stuff up just saying yes. But in this case, it's fine. And so now you can see I've got that change on my local copy that I'm working on in master. But if I switch it to
So
I'll just
you can switch to dev and see, yeah.
yeah, and it's not there anymore. It's not there on dev, but it is there on master. All right. What's wrong?
Nothing's wrong, and I just wanna add one thing, and if I'm jumping in too much, you just tell me.
No, you're fine.
So one thing that you need to learn about Git is literally controlling the folder that you're in. So when you switch branches, it's made a copy somewhere else, right? Somewhere that is not in your working directory. And so there's, like right now on her computer, there's no way she can navigate to master, like physically. She can't go into a folder and reach that file physically, or not easily. So like the thing you need to know is when you switch branches, you're actually switching all of the folders on your computer to whatever is in development locally. So like it will be weird sometimes, and you'll have issues where it'll say, hey, you can't change because you've not committed these. You'll lose all of these changes. You're gonna run into that a lot. So it's
Yeah.
good to like be in that thought of mind that is a physical representation. Your branch is a physical representation of whatever folder or repository that you're in. So switching is not just there's a folder here with master, there's a folder here with development. It's literally physically changing what's on your computer. So just keep that in mind, because that caught me up a lot when I started.
And doing it inside of Visual Studio, it's smart enough to switch it quickly. If you were to switch in the source tree and change it, when you come back to Visual Studio, it'll argue with you because someone has changed that runner that doesn't know about.
it's not listed there. So
Listed here, so how can I do it? Just
it'd be, check out, actually, go to the.
There's an example of that.
Oh, yeah, there.
And all I did was,
You're right, check out the
okay. Just
tried to
okay.
switch.
No, so pull that down. Yeah, I mean,
I tried to
yeah,
switch
so
from
now-
master to development. I changed some stuff on master.
So
I just made a change real
because
quick.
it came here was
You want me to
the-
wait
this
for
one.
the-
No, can you close it
Yes.
so we can see
Only
what you're doing over there?
Exactly.
I'm sorry, I just thought it might be easier to see it. Perfect.
I think it changed the visual studio.
Alright.
So what did you do again?
Yep.
Alright, if you guys wanna see what I did,
Yeah, that's right.
I was in master and I made this change here. All I did, instead of just leaving it like the 2015, I just changed it to make it like a date so that it would pop up and saved it. And then I tried to switch over to development and it'll say it can't switch to development because there's uncommitted changes. I haven't committed that change yet. So, at that point, you can go in and, view your changes. And I'm just gonna undo these because I didn't wanna do that. So I'll hit undo, say yes, and go back to my branches, and now it should let me switch over to development. So-
Only Git is compatible with Visual Studio because I don't see Mercurial being a part of it at all, or maybe I've not noticed.
Yeah, I don't think Mercurial is supported in Visual Studio. There's
Yeah.
probably plugins or extensions for it, but
That could be, but
not by default. I don't think it's supported.
yeah, because I don't see this thing happening, or I've never switched between stuff like that.
Yeah,
So maybe that's a Git thing.
And
maybe
Git has
so.
only actually been there since 2013, like that was the first person that added it.
Right.
Sorry for butting in like
No,
that.
you're
I
fine.
forget questions on the.
This is the whole
Good.
point of the class, is
Exactly.
to give you a chance to ask the question, so, did you have a question or you just? Alright, so there's branching, there's pulling and fetching, and does that explain the difference to you, or are you good with that? Steven, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, so fetching just gets you a copy of what's on origin, and then when you pull it, it merges it into your local copy. Okay. Alright, any other questions regarding, Git or branching? Cause what I'm gonna do